My name is Olivia Carter, 44 years old. I've been divorced from my ex-husband Marcus for 8 years, and in that time, I've learned that you can be both exhausted and fiercely in love with your child at the exact same moment, every single day. We have one kid together, my son Ethan, who is 16 and has, for most of his life, lived primarily with me. Marcus moved across the country for his dream job when Ethan was 8, promising he'd fly back all the time, call every week, make it up to him. You can probably guess how that went. These days, Marcus sees his son maybe twice a year, breezes in with gifts and big gestures, then disappears back into his Instagrammable life. I'm the one who's here for the report cards, the late night fevers, the slammed doors after bad days. Last week, everything detonated over something that, in theory, should have been standard parenting territory. Ethan has been dating this girl, Jade, 17, who sets off every alarm I have. He has a record for shoplifting. She skips school like it's a personality trait, rides in cars with kids who think stop signs are suggestions, and talks to adults like they're background noise. Every time she's around, Ethan's posture changes, cockier, colder, like he's auditioning for someone else's life. Friday afternoon, he came into the kitchen while I was chopping vegetables, his phone in his hand, and a hopeful glint in his eyes I didn't trust. "Hey, Mom," he said, casual. "There's a party tonight at Ryan's place. Everyone's going. Jade's going. I already told her I'd be there. Can I get a ride?" I wiped my hands on a towel. "Is Ryan's place the one where his parents are conveniently out of town?" I asked. He rolled his eyes. "They know about it. It's not a big deal." "It's a house full of unsupervised teenagers and alcohol," I said. "It's a big deal." The answer is no. He scoffed, like I'd confirmed every accusation he'd ever heard about me being uptight. "You're ruining my life. It's just one party." "One party where you'll be with a girl who already convinced you to skip class 3 times this month," I said. "You're on thin ice with school as it is. I'm not putting you in a situation that can make it worse. I said no, Ethan." He clenched his jaw, eyes flashing. "You don't understand anything." "I understand more than you think," I replied. "I understand what happens when you start treating bad decisions like personality accessories. You're not going." For a second, I thought we'd reached the usual stalemate, him stomping off, me counting to 10, both of us simmering until dinner. But instead, he took a step closer, his face twisting into something uglier than I'd ever seen on him. "I wish you were dead," he hissed. "At least Dad's girlfriend gets me. Tiffany actually listens. She's more of a mom to me than you'll ever be. As soon as I'm 18, I'm moving in with them, and I won't have to deal with you anymore." The knife in my hand suddenly felt very heavy. My heart dropped clean through my chest. For a moment, I just stared at him. Not the way a mother looks at her son, but the way you look at a stranger who just said something unforgivable. The kitchen clock ticked loudly. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. My brain cataloged every tiny sound because it didn't know what to do with the words that had just been fired at me like bullets. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't explain myself. Something in me flipped, but it wasn't rage. It was like a power switch going off in a room that had been burning too brightly for too long. "Noted," I said quietly. "Sweetheart." He blinked, surprised I wasn't screaming. Then he doubled down. "Good. Maybe now you'll stop smothering me." He stormed off down the hallway, slammed his bedroom door so hard, a picture frame rattled in the living room. I heard his music start up, loud and sharp, like he was trying to drown out his own words. He probably expected me to follow. That's what I always did. Knock on his door, try to talk it out, offer food as a peace offering. Apologize for things I shouldn't be apologizing for. This time I didn't move. I finished chopping the vegetables. I put them in containers. I washed the knife and the cutting board. Then I stood at the sink, staring out at the dark backyard, replaying his words over and over. "I wish you were dead. Tiffany is my real mom." Somewhere between rinsing off carrot peels and loading the dishwasher, a chilly, terrible clarity slid into place. Dead people don't make breakfast, I thought. Dead people don't give rides. Dead people don't pay for Spotify or iPhones or school lunches. Dead people don't answer when you scream at them. Dead people don't chase you down the hallway, begging to be enough. If he wanted me dead, I could give him a version of that. The next morning, I got up at my usual time, made myself coffee, and sat at the kitchen table scrolling through the news. I did not knock on Ethan's door. I did not call his name. I did not put toast in the toaster for him or scramble an extra egg. Around 8:15, his door flew open. "Mom, why didn't you wake me up?" he demanded, hair wild, backpack half zipped. "I'm going to be late." I sipped my coffee and kept reading an article about some tech merger as if no one had spoken. "Mom," he tried again, louder. "This isn't funny." I flipped to the next story. He moved in front of me, waving a hand between my face and the tablet. "Hello? Are you deaf?" I shifted my tablet an inch to the side and continued reading, deliberately looking through him, not at him. My silence filled the space between us like smoke. He stomped away, cursing under his breath. A few minutes later, I heard the front door slam. He'd missed the bus and would have to walk. The school was a mile and a half away. Perfectly safe, plenty of time to think. Dead people don't give rides. At lunch, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from the school, which I listened to later. "Hi, this is the cafeteria," a woman's voice said. "Just a heads up, Ethan's lunch account is empty. We let him charge today, but it needs funds added." I looked at the note on the fridge where I usually reminded myself to top up his account every Monday. Dead people don't remember to load lunch accounts. That afternoon, I logged into the phone carrier's website. Ethan's line was under my account, paid for by autopay every month, because I didn't want him stranded somewhere without a way to call. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I turned off autopay and scheduled a cancellation at the end of the billing cycle. Dead people don't pay for smartphones. By the third time my phone lit up with Marcus's name that weekend, I let it buzz into silence. I knew what had happened. Ethan had used the landline, the ancient piece of plastic we kept for emergencies, to call his father and tell him I'd lost my mind. He'd embellish, of course. He'd leave out the part where he told me he wished I was dead. I sat on the couch, the late afternoon light angle-sharp through the blinds, TV murmuring quietly, and ignored the ringing until it stopped. Dead people don't answer phones either. By Sunday night, Ethan had tried everything. Yelling in the hallway, "Mom, knock it off!" Scorn in the kitchen. "You're being psycho." Little jabs like, "Are you proud of yourself?" launched in my direction like fishing lines, waiting to see if I'd bite. I didn't. I made dinner for one. I watched TV alone. I walked past him when he sat on the couch, scrolling his now dying phone, and sat in my chair with my book without a word. For the first time since he was born, I removed myself from the center of his universe and watched, quietly, to see what would fill the vacuum. 3 days after he screamed that he wished I were dead, my son started to realize what it actually felt like to live in a house without me. And somewhere in another time zone, his father, who hadn't called more than once a month in years, suddenly couldn't stop dialing. By Monday morning, the house felt different. Not quieter, just honest. Like the walls had finally stopped pretending we were okay. I woke at my usual time, brewed coffee, answered a few work emails, and fried a single egg for myself. The chair across from me stayed empty. The second plate stayed in the cabinet. Dead people don't cook for the living. At 8:45 a.m., heavy footsteps thundered down the stairs. Ethan burst into the kitchen, breathless, hair sticking up, backpack half open and spilling loose papers. "Mom, why didn't you wake me up? I'm late." I sipped my coffee and scrolled. "This isn't funny anymore," he snapped, stepping directly into my line of sight. "I have a chemistry test today. Why didn't you—" "Hello?" He waved his hand in my face, snapping his fingers like I was a badly trained dog. I moved my tablet just enough to keep reading. His face crumpled into disbelief, then anger. "Wow. Okay. Real mature." The front door slammed so hard a photo nudged crooked on the wall. A mile and a half to school. His choice. By noon, my voicemail pinged. "Hi, this is the cafeteria," a gentle voice said. "Ethan's lunch account is empty. We let him charge today, but it will need funds added." I didn't. Dead people don't fund lunch accounts. That afternoon, a text popped up from an unknown number, likely one of his friends, since his phone would have pinged low battery warnings all day. "Hey, Ms. Carter, Ethan says you grounded him and took his phone. He needs a ride after school." I deleted the message. Dead people don't coordinate carpools. Around 4 p.m., I heard the front door open and close quietly. He crept in like someone arriving at the wrong house, not his own. I could feel him hovering behind me as I folded laundry. "Mom?" he tried softly. "Nothing." "Mom, seriously, I get it. You're making a point." I turned a towel, folded it, placed it on the stack. "Okay, fine," he muttered, footsteps retreating down the hall. 2 hours later, he tried again, this time with backup. I heard giggles, a shrill voice, the thud of someone's boots. Ethan brought Jade home. Interesting. I walked through the living room on my way to the kitchen. Jade sat sprawled across the couch, legs draped over Ethan's lap, scrolling her phone. He glanced up when I entered. Hey, Mom, he said, tone artificially bright. This is Jade. We're hanging out. Jade didn't look up. Is your mom gonna, say hi? Or does she just stomp around like a ghost? I walked past them, opened the fridge, pulled out mayonnaise, mustard, lettuce. I made myself a sandwich. The knife clicked softly on the cutting board. When I finished, I walked right back to my home office. Behind me, what the hell? She didn't even look at us. Yeah, Ethan muttered. I told you, she's being psycho about nothing. Dead people don't greet guests. I shut my office door and continued working. A half hour later, there was a knock. Not on my door, on the wall, beside it, like someone trying to provoke me in kindergarten. Ms. Carter? Jade's voice called, nasally and annoyed. You're being rude. Ethan said you're ignoring him, and honestly, that's immature. I didn't respond. I highlighted a column in Excel. Dead people don't respond to lectures from teenagers they don't like. Eventually, they left. Later that evening, a storm started forming. Not outside, on my phone. My sister Camille. 6 missed calls. A string of texts. Call me now. Ethan is crying to Marcus. Marcus is blowing up my phone. What did he say to you? I ignored them. 2 hours later, I heard my front door open. Camille stepped inside, coat still on, hair frizzed from the rain. She took one look at Ethan on the couch, puffy-eyed, arms crossed, looking utterly miserable, and raised an eyebrow. Oh, honey, she said with a dramatic sigh. Auntie thought you'd be thrilled now that your mom's dead to you. Ethan's eyes widened. Aunt Camille, seriously? Hey, I'm just going off what you said, she replied breezily, tossing her coat over a chair. Then she turned to me, lifted a hand, and we high-fived. Good job, Liv, finally. Ethan burst into tears. Ugly, teenage boy tears. Surprised, betrayed, hiccupy. Aunt Camille, make her stop! Camille shrugged. Make who stop? I don't see you being harmed. I see a 16-year-old learning how to microwave taquitos on his own. He stormed off to his room. Door slam. Round 2. Camille plopped onto my couch with a glass of wine from my cabinet like she lived here. So, she said casually, your ex's new girlfriend is weighing in. I snorted. Let me guess. Tiffany thinks I'm emotionally damaging Ethan? Not just that, Camille smirked. She told Marcus they're considering options. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, Camille continued. I told Marcus maybe he should try being a consistently present parent before letting his girlfriend diagnose your parenting. Tiffany's met Ethan, 3 times? 4, technically. Right, Camille rolled her eyes. And she thinks she's the suburban therapist whisperer. We spent the rest of the evening drinking wine, her, tea, me, and laughing over how many threats Marcus could fit into one text message. The next day carried its own small victory. Ethan's phone shut off. I heard the ding of the house phone, my relic from a decade ago, followed by muffled complaining. He stomped through the hall. Mom, my phone isn't working. The bill didn't go through. I need it. Silence. Mom, he tried again, voice cracking. Please, this is stupid. I didn't mean it. I stared at the wall, not him. Dead people don't maintain iPhone plans. He walked away. I could hear the shame in his footsteps. Later, I overheard him calling his friend Rebecca from the house phone, whispering urgently. I didn't mean it like that, okay? When I said I wished she was dead, I was mad. I didn't think she won't even look at me. He choked on the last word. Too late, sweetheart. Wednesday morning, the real chaos hit. He overslept again. Came sprinting downstairs at 8:45, the same panicked ritual. Mom, drive me. I'll miss school. Mom. I turned a page in my book. Mom, are you kidding right now? Nothing. He slammed the door so hard I felt the frame shake. 20 minutes later, he returned, cheeks flushed. Mom says if you don't drive me to school this minute, she's calling her lawyer. I almost laughed. Marcus hadn't paid child support in 2 years, but sure, call your lawyer. He ended up walking. I didn't watch him leave, but I did watch him come back that afternoon. Not alone. Marcus, looking older and strangely sunburned. And beside him, Tiffany, wearing leggings and a neon windbreaker designed for someone 20 years younger. They pounded on my door. Olivia, open this door right now! I sat in the living room, visible through the window, reading a paperback. Dead people don't answer doors. Tiffany stepped forward, arms crossed. Hey, be an adult and talk to us. I turned a page. They stayed for 45 minutes. Marcus shouted. Tiffany cajoled. Ethan cried. They threatened. And then, for the first time since Friday night, I felt a small, hard knot of something inside me unwind. Because my silence wasn't cruelty, it was boundaries. Finally. That evening, they left, with Ethan. He looked back at the window, eyes red, lower lip trembling. Maybe he expected me to intervene. I didn't move. Why would a dead woman? Ethan lasted exactly 18 hours with Marcus and Tiffany. Not 2 days, not one full weekend. The three of them barely made it through a single night in their pastel-themed hotel suite before the whole arrangement imploded. I was in the kitchen the next morning, frying a single egg, my breakfast, no more, no less, when I heard the familiar slam of a car door, another slam, then rapid footsteps across the porch, a jangle of keys I hadn't seen in years. The front door swung open. Marcus barged in first, wearing sunglasses indoors and stress sweat under his collar. Tiffany followed, over-tanned and overcompensating, and there in the doorway stood Ethan, hair messy, eyes swollen, shoulders tight with embarrassment. He looked older somehow, or maybe just stripped bare. "Olivia," Marcus barked, "this ends now." I plated my eggs, sat at the kitchen table, cut into them with a slow, precise motion. Dead people didn't host welcome home speeches. "Mom," Ethan whispered, voice cracking. Tiffany stepped forward like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. "Ethan has something to say to you, and you're going to listen." I took a sip of my coffee. Ethan swallowed. "Mom, I'm sorry." Nothing in me moved. Not yet. Apologies should feel earned. Marcus huffed. "See, he's apologizing. Now stop this game and talk to your son." But Ethan wasn't looking at Marcus. He was looking at me. And then, unexpectedly, sharply, he turned on Tiffany. "Will you shut up?" he snapped. Tiffany froze, as stunned as if he'd slapped her. Ethan's voice rose, desperate. "You don't know me. You keep pretending like you're my parent, but you aren't. You met me 3 times. You don't even know what grade I'm in." Tiffany's face reddened like a sunburn spreading. "Ethan," Marcus warned. "No," Ethan said, shaking. "Last night you two fought for 5 hours about whether the hotel pillows were synthetic and whether Dad should have bought first-class tickets. You didn't know I had a chemistry test, or that I'm on academic probation, or that I have to make up 4 assignments this week. You don't know anything." He turned to me then, tears forming. "But Mom does." I paused mid-bite. For the first time in 5 days, I actually looked at him. Really looked. He stepped closer, voice trembling. "Mom knows I can't stand the taste of pickles. She knows I take 2 sugars in coffee but hate whipped cream. She knows I get panic attacks during thunderstorms. She knows exactly how I like my grilled cheese and exactly what to say when I'm freaking out before a test." His breath shuddered, and I told her I wished she was dead. My fingers tightened around my fork. I told her Tiffany was my real mom, and she stopped talking to me, stopped looking at me. His voice broke. "And Tiffany doesn't even know that I hate mustard." Marcus cleared his throat loudly, embarrassed. "Okay, that's enough. Let's not get dramatic." Ethan rounded on him. "Dad, you didn't know I had a test yesterday." Well, your mother didn't tell me," Marcus sputtered. "She didn't have to tell you," Ethan snapped. "A parent should know. You're the one who left when I was 8. You're the one who calls when you remember. You're the one who sent my birthday money 2 weeks late last year and blamed the post office." Tiffany gasped. "Marcus!" "Sweetheart," Marcus tried, reaching for him. Ethan recoiled. Then, with shaking hands, he pulled out a folded, crumpled sheet of paper. "Mom," he whispered, voice wrecked, "I wrote you this last night." He set it on the table in front of me. I didn't touch it. He took a trembling breath and began reading. "Mom, I know you probably won't read this because dead people can't read, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. I was mad about the party, and Jade and you said no because you care, even if I pretended you didn't. And I said the worst thing I could think of, but I didn't mean it." His tears dripped onto the paper. "You're not perfect. You're strict. You worry too much. You still cut the crust off my sandwiches even though I tell you I'm not a kid anymore. But you've always been here. Always." His voice softened. "When I had my first panic attack, you stayed on the bathroom floor with me for an hour. When I failed my driving test, you made me mac and cheese and didn't say I told you so. When Jade was being awful to me last month, you didn't yell. You just let me cry." He swallowed hard. "And I said Tiffany was my real mom, but last night she bought me a gift card to Justice. I'm 16, Mom. She doesn't even know who I am." Tiffany inhaled sharply, insulted. Marcus muttered, "Tiffany, maybe this isn't—" But Ethan wasn't done. He looked at me, eyes red, pleading. "Please don't be dead anymore." The kitchen was silent, except for the ticking clock. Melissa's male version, Marcus, finally tried. "Olivia, this is emotional abuse. You need to stop." No, Ethan said suddenly, straightening. Mom isn't the problem. You are. You and Tiffany don't know how to be here. You showed up to rescue me because you thought it would make you look good, not because you know what I need. Tiffany's mouth opened and closed like a stunned fish. Ethan turned again, looking at me with a terrified hope. Mom, please, I'm sorry. I'll do anything. Just look at me. I finished my breakfast, stood slowly, walked my dish to the sink, washed it, dried it, put it away. Then, finally, I looked at my son. There was cereal in the pantry. Don't forget you have school. He gasped like a drowning person breaking the surface. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me. He hugged me with the kind of desperate, crushing force that said he'd been terrified the answer would be no. I didn't hug him back, not yet, but I didn't push him away. It was more than enough. Marcus shifted awkwardly behind him. So, are you going to talk to us now? I glanced at him once, cold, brief, dismissive. Dead people don't talk to the ghosts who walked away first. Ethan pulled back, wiping his eyes. Tiffany stood stiffly behind Marcus, her neon windbreaker suddenly garish in the morning light. Both of you, Ethan said, voice raw, need to leave. Tiffany scoffed. Excuse me? You heard him, I said quietly. Marcus stepped toward Ethan. We were trying to help. No, Ethan interrupted. You were trying to control something you don't understand. He pointed to the door. This is my house with my mom. You're not welcome here anymore. Marcus's face flashed with anger, then shame, then something like fear. Tiffany huffed and stomped toward the exit, muttering about ungrateful kids. They left. The door shut. Silence settled. Ethan took a slow breath. Mom, can we fix this? I studied him. The guilt, the fear, the sincerity. And beneath it, my boy. We weren't healed, but we were finally facing each other, which meant we had a chance. The house felt different after they left. Lighter, but also strangely fragile, like a freshly stitched wound that couldn't be touched yet. Ethan hovered nearby the rest of that day, not quite sure how close he was allowed to stand, as if afraid that if he breathed wrong, I'd disappear again. Saturday morning, I came downstairs expecting the usual silence, but instead found Ethan in the kitchen, wearing an apron he definitely dug out of the back of a drawer. The stove was on. The air smelled like burnt optimism. He turned when he heard me. I made breakfast. On the table sat 2 plates. Eggs, burnt, toast, soggy, bacon. Somehow both undercooked and charred. It looked terrible. But he was trying. He was really trying. Breakfast is in the fridge, I said out of habit, then stopped myself. This wasn't the moment to retreat into old patterns. I pulled out a chair and sat. He held his breath as I took a bite. It was awful. I swallowed it anyway. His shoulders dropped in relief. The rest of the weekend was quiet. Not the hostile, tension-filled quiet from before. A healing quiet. Ethan folded laundry on his own. He took out the trash without being asked. He even cleaned the bathroom, though judging by the bleach smell, I suspected he nearly gassed himself doing it. And not once did he mention Jade. I didn't poke the wound. If he wanted to talk, he'd talk. For now, the silence around her name told me everything I needed to know. Saturday afternoon, Camille came over with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine, wearing sunglasses indoors to hide the fact she was already hungover from brunch. You survived the hotel fiasco? She asked, kicking off her shoes. Barely, I said. Good, because Melissa is losing her mind. Marcus, I corrected. Even now, she kept their roles tangled from the original story I'd once told her. She waved her hand. Whatever. Your ex called me screaming that you alienated his son and ruined his future marriage. And Tiffany? She's apparently devastated. She'll live, I said. Not according to the voicemail she left me, Camille added, flipping through her phone. She said, and I quote, I didn't sign up for a man with baby mama drama. A snicker escaped me before I could stop it. Camille smirked. Oh, and they broke up. I blinked. Already? Last night. The speed was impressive, even for them. Camille grinned wickedly. Apparently, one night with Ethan was enough to scare Mr. Designer Jeans into realizing actual parenting exists. And Tiffany didn't appreciate being yelled at by a teenager who saw through her fun mom act. More like 3-time acquaintance, I muttered. Camille raised her glass in salute. To dead mom method acting. Worked better than any parenting book. I didn't clink her glass back, but she clinked mine anyway. Sunday followed a gentle rhythm. Ethan sat at the kitchen table doing actual homework. I paid bills. He made himself coffee and made me one too. 1 cream, 1 sugar, just right. Later, he drifted into the living room and put on The Office. He didn't ask if I wanted to watch, he just left a space for me on the couch. I stayed in my chair for a good 10 minutes before joining him. He didn't make a big deal of it. Neither did I. Healing rarely arrives with trumpets. More often, it looks like two people watching old sitcom reruns, pretending nothing is different while everything inside them is shifting. Then Monday morning proved that healing still had one test left. Around 9 a.m., a loud, obnoxious engine sputtered into the driveway. Tires crunched. Music blasted. Jade's car, Ethan, who had been upstairs getting ready, ran down the stairs 2 at a time. "I didn't invite her," he said quickly. "I swear." I watched through the blinds as Jade stepped out of her car, messy ponytail, ripped jeans, and the swagger of someone who believed the world owed her devotion. She stalked up to this porch and pounded on the door. "Ethan, open up! We need to talk!" He froze. "Do you want to talk to her?" I asked. He shook his head violently. "No, Mom. I broke up with her Thursday. She won't accept it." The pounding grew louder. "Ethan, seriously?" He opened the door a crack. "What do you want?" "What do I want?" She spat. "You're ignoring me. Like, who even does that? I thought we were good. You're being dramatic." "You cheated on a chemistry test and tried to get me suspended," Ethan snapped. "We're done." She didn't like that answer. She stepped inside, crowding him, her voice rising. "You owe me a conversation. Don't walk away from me like I'm nothing." Then she grabbed his arm, and I stopped being dead. I didn't think, didn't hesitate. I was outside before my brain caught up with my feet. "Get your hand off my son." They both froze. Jade dropped his arm like it burned her. "Mrs. Carter, look, I was just—" "You were putting your hands on someone who told you to stop," I said calmly. "Leave." She blinked rapidly. "You can't tell me—" "Yes," I said, "I can." Ethan's voice was small but steady. "Jade, go home." She looked between us, her anger shifting into humiliation, and stormed off, slamming her car door hard enough to rattle the windows. She peeled out of the driveway, tires screeching like a toddler throwing a tantrum. Ethan stood frozen on the porch. I turned to him. "Do you want him here?" He shook his head. "No, I'm done. Really done." Inside, he collapsed into the entryway bench, head in his hands. Then the sobbing began. Real sobbing. The kind that shakes your whole body. The kind that sounds like regret tearing itself loose. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he choked out. "I was horrible. I was so horrible to you." "Yes," I said softly. "You were." He laughed through the tears. "You're supposed to say it's okay." "It's not okay," I replied. "What you said hurt. Badly. But we're going to work through it." He nodded, sniffling. "I don't want to be like that anymore." "I know." He wiped his face, hiccuping. What happens now?" "Now?" I said. "You're grounded for 2 weeks. No phone, no going out, no friends over." He nodded immediately. "Fair. And you're writing apology letters. To your Aunt Camille for dragging her into this. To your father for embarrassing him publicly, even if he deserved most of it. And to yourself." "To myself?" he asked, confused. "For dating someone who treated you like property and for speaking poison you didn't mean." His eyes welled again. "And you? Don't I owe you an apology letter?" "No," I said. "You owe me something better. The truth. Always. Even when you're mad. Even when you think I'm ruining your life. The truth, Ethan." "I can do that." I believed him. Later, when I handed him a cheap flip phone, he groaned. "Mom, seriously?" "Dead people don't pay for iPhones," I said. "If you want one again, you help pay for it." He sighed dramatically. "Okay, fine." An hour later, he brought me a sandwich for lunch. Turkey and Swiss, no pickles, exactly how I like it. He didn't say anything when he handed it to me. He didn't have to. As he walked away, I felt something loosen inside me. We weren't perfect. We weren't fixed. We weren't done. But we were alive again. And that was enough.